Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and, honestly, absolutely crucial conversation from the Huberman Lab featuring Jeff Cavaliere. We're going to look at this crazy modern paradox of why we're living longer but somehow moving worse. We'll be teasing something called the old man test and, get this, revealing the surprising real reason for your chronic back pain. Then, we'll break down Jeff's complete blueprint for lifelong strength. So, if you've ever wondered how to stay strong, pain-free, and fully independent for the rest of your life, instead of just, chasing some aesthetic goal for the next month, you are in exactly the right place.
All right, so here's our step-by-step manual for today. We've got 1. The health span paradox. 2. The root of chronic pain. 3. The functional longevity test. 4. The construction zone mindset. And finally, 5. Sustainable fitness and nutrition. Let's just jump right into step 1.
Section 1. The health span paradox, living longer versus living better. Right, so we start with a major issue that pretty much defines modern aging. Thanks to medical advances, sanitation, and better healthcare, our life expectancy has skyrocketed over the past century. I mean, we are living longer than ever before. But, and it's a big but, reaching our 70s and 80s today often comes with a massive caveat: poor mobility, joint dysfunction, and just chronic pain.
So, the crucial point we really need to grasp is that our true goal shouldn't just be lifespan, but health span. Lifespan is, well, literally just the raw number of years you're breathing. But health span? That's the number of years you remain healthy, independent, and actually physically capable. The super encouraging message here is that aging absolutely doesn't have to mean an inevitable loss of independence. The physical limitations a lot of older adults face aren't just from simply getting older. They're usually the result of years of inactivity, poor movement patterns, and neglected physical maintenance. If we just properly maintain our bodies, we can absolutely bridge that gap between those two metrics.
Okay, moving on to section 2, the root of chronic pain. It's not always the spine. Let's see how this builds, especially regarding one of the most common medical complaints worldwide, which is chronic lower back pain. If you, or maybe someone you know, struggles with this, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention to what the underlying mechanics really are here.
So, why is your back really hurting? Millions of people automatically assume their back pain stems directly from structural spine damage. They think, a disc is ruined or their spine is just inherently weak. But what's really interesting and kind of mind-blowing is that this assumption is frequently incorrect. Much of the chronic back pain people suffer from actually arises not from structural damage, but from muscular dysfunction somewhere completely else in the body. And that brings us to the true culprit for so many of us: the gluteus medius. It's this critical little muscle right on the side of your hip. Because so many of us spend large chunks of our day just sitting at a desk, this crucial hip muscle becomes weak. It basically goes to sleep. And when it weakens, your body compensates. Your lower back is suddenly forced to take on these heavy stabilization workloads that it was literally never designed to handle. It's like asking a finishing carpenter to pour a concrete foundation. This cascade effect leads directly to lower back stress, hip discomfort, and even knee pain.
But here is the good news. You absolutely do not need complex, intimidating gym equipment to fix this. Small, highly targeted corrective movements are almost always the key. Take the hip slide up the wall exercise, for example. It's a targeted intervention that isolates that weak glute medius, improves your pelvic alignment, and most importantly, it takes that totally unfair stress right off your lower back. Another really great movement mentioned in our source material is the reverse hyperextension. This one simultaneously strengthens the glutes and hamstrings while physically decompressing the spine. The big takeaway here? Movement isn't the problem. It's the solution.
All right, now that we've addressed pain, let's talk about actual capability. Section 3, the functional longevity test, training for real life. You see, the true measure of fitness isn't really about how much weight you can lift in a perfectly controlled gym environment. It's about functional longevity. It's your ability to carry heavy groceries, climb a flight of stairs, get up off the floor easily, and maintain your balance out there in the real world.
I want you to imagine doing this old man test right now. It sounds incredibly simple, right? Stand completely on one leg, maintain your balance without holding on to anything, and then put your shoe on that foot. Simple? Well, what this brilliantly illustrates is that this seemingly basic task is actually evaluating multiple physical capacities simultaneously. It is testing your balance, mobility, coordination, core stability, and hip strength all at the exact same time. Surprisingly, a ton of younger, seemingly fit individuals struggle with this, which reveals these underlying weaknesses that are definitely going to become major problems later in life. Honestly, if you fail that test, it's a major wake-up call about your balance. Look, balance training totally lacks the excitement of traditional heavy strength training, right? You aren't going to see many viral videos of people doing balance work. It's not flashy. But side planks, leg abductions, and basic balance holds are literally some of the most valuable investments you can make for your body. Falls are among the leading causes of injury in older adults, often leading to fractures, hospitalization, and just a total loss of independence. Training your balance now preserves your freedom later. It's that simple.
Okay, Section 4, the construction zone mindset, rethinking injury management. Here we focus on how we actually handle the inevitable roadblocks and injuries that happen in any active lifestyle. Because let's face it, if you move, eventually you're going to encounter some sort of physical setback. It happens to all of us. But how you handle it dictates your long-term success.
This brilliantly illustrates Jeff Cavaliere's philosophy on injury management. He notes that injuries are like construction zones on highways. When one road is blocked, traffic doesn't just stop, right? It finds alternative routes. When people feel pain, their first instinct is usually to just stop training entirely. But total rest causes a loss of strength, reduced fitness, and intense psychological frustration. Instead, you need to view your injury as a construction zone. If your shoulder hurts, modify your grip or reduce your range of motion. If your knee is bothering you, adjust your squat depth or use supported movements. You safely train around your limitations. Doing this actually increases blood flow to the area, which improves healing, rather than just surrendering to the pain. Of course, you can avoid a lot of these construction zones in the first place by mastering your biomechanics. Good, efficient movement quality naturally reduces overuse injuries. And what's really fascinating here is the focus on surprisingly neglected areas, like your neck muscles. Because we spend hours staring down at our phones and computers, we develop this terrible forward head posture. Strengthening your neck prevents this and drastically reduces headaches. Furthermore, good posture shouldn't be something you have to constantly actively force. It really must emerge naturally, because your muscles are strong and balanced enough to just hold you there effortlessly. And that brings us to Section 5, Sustainable Fitness and Nutrition, Quality over Quantity. This is where we shift our narrative from how to move to how to actually sustain this routine consistently for decades. This is where we finally separate the temporary fitness fads from genuine, lifelong health. A massive mistake people make is believing that more volume always equals better results. But consider how indirect training actually works. When you do a compound movement, like a pull-up, you aren't just working your back. You're indirectly training your biceps, your forearms, and your core. Squats indirectly train your lower back and core. Smarter programming utilizes this indirect training to prevent excessive volume. When you try to directly isolate every single muscle with endless sets, you just exceed your recovery capacity. And that leads directly to burnout and, you guessed it, injury.
If you're wondering how you fit a sustainable routine into a life filled with jobs, kids, families, and travel, keep this number in mind, 10. You literally only need 10 focused minutes of mobility, core, or balance work a day to see really meaningful benefits. Real-life constraints matter. Your fitness program absolutely must accommodate your actual life, not some idealized, perfect version of it.
The crucial takeaway here is incredibly simple but powerful. Small, consistent workouts outperform ambitious plans every single time. Consistency is the ultimate secret weapon of elite professional athletes. They prioritize the fundamentals and recovery way over flashy, advanced techniques. It proves that training at a moderate level indefinitely, something you can do year after year after year, is infinitely better than going extremely hard 6 days a week only to quit completely when it just becomes unsustainable.
And you know what? This exact same philosophy applies perfectly to nutrition. We've got to completely reject the marketing-driven fad diets that promise rapid fat loss and these overnight miracle transformations. Instead, we must build food awareness. This means focusing on the basic principles, learning proper portion sizes, prioritizing real, whole foods, and tuning back into your body's natural hunger and satiety signals. A sustainable diet isn't about rigid tracking forever. It's about building knowledge and habits that support your lifestyle without dominating it. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Ask yourself right now, is your fitness routine just a temporary challenge to look a certain way for an upcoming vacation, or is it an empowering daily investment? Because the true objective of training is guaranteeing that you can easily pick up your grandkids, climb the stairs without wincing in pain, and put on your own shoes with perfect balance at age 80. By focusing on functional longevity, addressing those sneaky muscular imbalances, and fully embracing consistency, you are setting the foundation for a vibrant, truly independent life. Thank you so much for joining me, and I challenge you to start making those small, consistent investments today.